Welcome to the iPad Podcast, a weekly podcast from Mac's Future.
Okay, welcome to the iPad Podcast, and this is Lex at Mac'sFuture.com, and today is November 27th, 2011, and I'm going to call this episode the Holiday iPads episode because we're between holidays. We're between Thanksgiving and the Christmas season. And anyways, it's a merry time, and it's a merry time in the iPad world. So we got a lot of iPad news, iPad apps, and iPad devices to talk about. So let's get to it. This is a chit-chat free podcast. Okay, so just a few days ago, we had the Black Friday sales day in America, where it's a big day for shopping for the holiday season, and there were various Apple discounts, and the iPad was discounted, and apparently Apple's iPad and the iPhone did really well. There's a report out on tech.fortune.cnn.com entitled IBM Report, iPhones and iPads accounted for 10.2% of Black Friday online retail traffic. So that's an enormous amount of traffic. And this apparently came from a survey done by IBM. It has a thing called Smarter Commerce survey on Saturday, and it reported double-digit increases in online sales for Thanksgiving Day, up for almost 40% from 2010. And Black Friday is up almost 24%. So that's good news for the economy. But apparently it says in there that, Apple did really well. And it basically is saying that mobile shopping was led by Apple, with the iPhone and iPad ranking 1 and 2 for consumer shopping on mobile devices. So it says there 5.4% and 4.8% respectively. Let's see. So it says that shoppers using the iPad led to more retail purchases more often per visit than other mobile devices, with conversion rates reaching 4.6% compared to 2.8% for mobile devices. So people are using the iPad to do a lot of shopping. So that's good news. And obviously the iPad's a good shopping device. There's a lot of catalog apps that appear in the iPad, and that could account for maybe a lot of the mobile shopping that's done on it. So interesting statistics regarding the traffic. So I guess it's not that the iPhone and the iPad were sold in great numbers, but rather the online traffic in terms of buying stuff, at least 10% of it was done through the iPhone or the iPad. Just shows you what great online devices they are. With the holidays upon us, it's time to start thinking of the next iPad, the iPad 3. And 9to5Mac reported that there's a story out in the Wall Street Journal that says that Sharp is going to supply Apple with the LCDs for the iPad 3. And I guess that's big news for Sharp. And they must be very happy at that company. I think it's a Japanese company. And it basically says here that Apple has tapped Sharp to supply the LCD displays for the next version of the iPad. And as we know, the iPad's probably going to launch early next year, around March or April. And the story does also point out that the iPad is rumored to have a Retina display, which is going to be, more pixels per inch. So that's good news. It says that not only will Sharp supply the LCD for the iPad, but also that it's currently also supplying a lot of the displays for the current iPhone 4S. So maybe Apple's doing this because Apple's really, upset with Samsung And this is a way to get even with Samsung and actually to diversify by having Sharp be the big supplier. Anyways, I'm sure there'll be more stories like this as we get closer to the iPad 3 launch. Now, AppleInsider has a sort of a related story regarding the iPad 3 or the iPad 4. And it basically says that Apple is investing in Sharp's factories, and it's basically saying that Apple is helping Sharp develop capacity for something known as the IGZO LCD panels for the next iPhone and iPad. And basically, IGZO stands for indium, gallium, and zinc. And it says here that the IGZO technology is perfect and that it offers near OLED power consumption while having a lower cost and thinness that is only 25% greater than OLED based on our checks. This is quoting a securities analyst named Jeffries Peter Misek. So, it says that Apple is said to be, this is part of Apple working on a fundamentally distinct display technology for the iPad 4. So already, Apple's not only thinking about the iPad 3, but planning ahead for the iPad 4. This is kind of interesting that we might have really incredible displays, not only in the iPad 3, but even better in the iPad 4. So, interesting stuff coming out. Now, as many of you know, and as I know, Apple's been fighting it out with Samsung around the world in various courts, basically claiming that Samsung has been ripping off Apple's patents and designs. And Apple had scored a big victory in Australia, which had caused Samsung from not being able to sell the Galaxy Tab 10.1 in that country. Well, it says here that Samsung has appealed the lower court's decision in Australia to a higher court. That's pretty obvious. This is on MacRumors.com reporting what Bloomberg reports. And Bloomberg said that judges in the appeal case appear to be somewhat skeptical of the fairness of the injunction, leading to speculation that they may lift the injunction when they rule on the case next week. So that might not be good for Apple. And the article notes that Samsung has noted that it will scrap the Galaxy Tab 10.1 launch in Australia entirely if it is not permitted to sell during the holiday shopping season. I'm not familiar with the Australian legal system. This is just sort of reporting on what Bloomberg is reporting. But, injunctions are a pretty drastic remedy because an injunction basically prevents a company from selling something. And the court in Australia may think, maybe the better thing to do is let Samsung sell it. And then if Apple prevails, let Apple get monetary compensation from Samsung for the infringement on Apple's intellectual property. So we'll have to see what happens. Maybe it's better for Apple if the Samsung Galaxy Tab is sold in Australia, just so people can see that the iPad is truly a superior product. Now, one of the funnier posts or web stories about the iPad was on 9 to 5 Mac this week, and actually today, November 27th. They had an article out entitled "Engineers Are Dreaming Up iPad Robots," and they had pictures of what appeared to be an Apple developer patent for a mobile robot system, and it basically looked like some weird-looking robot with an iPad as a head. But here's the funny thing. They actually picked up that story from the Patently Apple website, and they described it as Patently Apple today publishes some interesting new patents from developers, including what appears to be an iRobot built around an iPad head. And it says here from Patently Apple, A robot system includes a mobile robot having a controller executing a control system for controlling operation of the robot, a cloud computing service in communication with the controller of the robot, and a remote computing device in communication with the cloud computing service. The remote computing device communicates with the robot through the cloud computing service. But then here's the funny thing. 9to5 then says, update, oops, originally thought this was an Apple patent. So I guess, this was not an Apple patent. I guess these were Apple developers, but not actually Apple. So I don't know. I think one day we will see an Apple robot. Obviously, robots are going to eventually be built. We're getting closer to that. And there may be something called like the iRobot. And maybe it will have like a head like the iPad. But I could see the iPad being a great interface for many devices. And this patently Apple.com website, they're showing patents where the iPad is like embedded in a guitar, so it becomes like a touchscreen guitar. Already with the GarageBand app, you can have like an instrument that's a guitar that you can strum it. And it would be very easy to sort of embed that into a guitar so you could hold it easier when you're strumming. So in this article on Patently Apple, they also show a patent sketch of like someone in bed who is being tendered in bed in a hospital, who's being tendered by a doctor, and there's this like iPad robot with the iPad as the head tending the person. So, this is all very viable. I think we're going to see the iPad, becoming eventually the part of a robot. I don't think it's so crazy. Now, one of the coolest things that was on sale for Black Friday that I saw on the TUAW website is a device that I've been thinking about getting that supplements the iPad, and I think is really cool. It's made by a company called ThinkGeek, and it's called the iCade, ICADE, and on Black Friday, it was on sale for $59.99. Normally, it sells for $99.99. And basically, it's like an old-time arcade, and you just, I guess, embed the iPad in that, and you can play various Atari Greatest Hits app on it. It basically creates like an old-time Atari unit. This was like one of the first video games back in the 70s, and actually Steve Jobs worked at Atari before he created Apple. So, I don't think the iCade is on sale anymore. It's now back to $99.99, but it's even at that price, it's kind of a cool novelty. If you've got a game room, you could put it in there and really sort of, have fun with the iPad. And there are controls in this, touch arcade, iCade device, like buttons and a joystick that controls the iPad. So, if you're really into the iPad and you have a sort of a game room, I would consider getting this so you can play these old-time Atari games. Now, one free app that's gotten a lot of buzz lately is the Google Search app for the iPad. It was updated recently, and it's got very interesting features. In fact, so interesting that Time Magazine had an article out on November 25th entitled Google's iPad app, Almost Chrome, and Trouble for Apple. And so basically what a lot of people have pointed out is that Google's latest update to the Google Search app has a lot of other hidden functions in it. And I got to tell you, it's like it's a very good app. It's just the Google Search app. But here's the thing. if you look on the bottom, you've now got a button entitled Applications. And so it's like almost like having a Chrome browser in there. Now, the other thing that has built in there is you've got 4 buttons now under the search part of the Google browser. History. And when you go to history now, you can swipe to and from your history, left to right, and so you can see what you previously searched. And then you just swipe back and you get the search page. But and then you also have to the far right goggles, which allow you to search the web by using your camera on the iPad and taking a picture of something. Now, my use of it was a little hit and miss. I took a picture of what did I take a picture of? Like the plug to an iPad, and it wasn't able to recognize it. But it is a kind of a cool thing. You can take, I guess, pictures of like a book or something like that. You can also do voice search. You can say, find. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do a voice search right now. Find the nearest beer store, and it's pretty good. It got my query correct and typed it into the Google search thing. It's almost like trying to compete with Siri. So that's kind of cool, the voice search. But the biggest news is that there's now a button to Applications. And this brings up a menu, very nice and neat, sort of like squares. And it has Gmail, Calendars, Docs, Google+, News, Reader, YouTube, Maps, Photos, Translate, Google Voice, and Offers. So it's pretty actually, there's more than that. And you swipe to another page, and you have Google Finance, Google Earth, Google Books, and Blogger. So essentially, Google Search app is basically 12, 13, 14, 15 apps in one. And it's pretty elegant. Like Google Plus, when you hit one of these buttons, you get a similar feel to the new Twitter app. You get like a sort of, like a side panel sweeps in. And, in a way, if you use Google for things like Google Plus and, Google News, Google Gmail, Google Docs, this all-in-one app is pretty powerful. And, I think it really makes the iPad even more functional, but it also gives Google a major presence on the iPad. So Time Magazine thinks so too, and it says it describes the app as beautiful, flawless iOS app, and it says that the writer, what's his name, is Jared Newman. He says, as is, I can see myself spending a lot of time in Google's iPad app, but what's frustrating is that with a few tweaks, Google Search could be a proper iPad web browser, and probably the best one. All it needs is a full URL bar instead of a search box at the top of the screen. So, they make a good point, which is the one thing that this seems to be lacking is to be a standalone browser. But I guess the point is, though, this is, will Apple kick this off? Is Apple threatened by this? Let's see. Time thinks that this is trouble for Apple. And I'm not sure if it is. What if you could buy apps through this from Google? Would Apple be threatened by that? I guess Apple would take a cut of that then. So it's an interesting app. I highly recommend everybody to download it because it's very comprehensive. If you use Google at all on your iPad, it's really comprehensive and worth using. So we'll see if Google updates it to give it even more features. But right now, it's a very powerful and beautifully done app, and I highly recommend it. It's free. Now, one of the more interesting developments for the iPad and the enterprise comes from a story from Slashgear.com. It has a story out today called iPad Flies High with Gameloft Jetstar Gaming Deal. So basically, it's saying that the game developer Gameloft has entered into a deal with the Australian airline Jetstar to offer iPads on flights preloaded with games for in-flight use. So this is a very interesting twist, where an airline is not only going to hand out iPads to its, passengers or rent them out, but loaded up with content. And that sort of makes sense. And it says here that Jetstar is going to offer 12 titles, such as Real Football, Shrek, Kart, Avatar, Uno, and Nova, and other titles that will follow in Q2, including GT Racing, Motor Academy, Brain Challenge, Blocus, Iron Man 2, Let's Golf 2, The Settlers, and Asphalt 5. So I wonder if this is a trend we're going to see, where not only are iPads being handed out, but they're going to be stocked with certain apps. And obviously, if you're going to hand out a lot of these iPads, you should make a deal to have, certain games on it, because otherwise you could get really expensive if you're just paying the retail price for them. It says here that flights that Jetstar runs have prices for renting out the iPad ranging from $10 Australian dollars to $15 Australian dollars. But apparently Jetstar yet doesn't have internet access for the iPads. So maybe the games and video content already on it are the way to go. So this is a very interesting development, and we'll have to see if other major, customer-related businesses start not only handing out iPads, but starting to do deals with, companies that have content available on the iPad, such as game developers or movies. So interesting twist. Here's another story that in a way sort of relates to the one about Jetstar and the iPad. And USA Today Travel today has a story entitled "An iPad in Every Cabin. That's the Plan at One Cruise Line." And the article says that Royal Caribbean, which is a pretty reputable and high-end cruise company, this week announced that it would have an iPad in every cabin of the 1,804-passenger Splendor of the Seas by mid-February. So it's saying that this is an industry first, and that it'll add the Apple devices to the cabin of 5 more of its 22 ships within 2 years. So this is really good news for Apple. It says that the iPads will be programmed to let passengers access the ship's daily listing of events and activities, and to see personal daily itinerary, including shore excursions. It says that the passengers will be able to use the devices to monitor their onboard account, order room service, view restaurant menus, access the internet, and watch movies. So basically, the iPads will act much like, it says here, like an interactive television system found on many ships. It says that these are part of the Vision class series of ships, which include the Legend of the Seas, the Grandeur of the Seas, the Rhapsody of the Seas, the Enchantment of the Seas, and the Vision of the Seas. So, we're really seeing an amazing trend here. We saw airlines handing out iPads to pilots. We've seen a number of airlines having iPads on the plane. Now the cruise ships are having iPads given out to customers, and soon everyone's going to be handing out iPads. It's got to be really good news for Apple. One of the more interesting developments in the App Store for the iPad was something to do with a company called Big Fish Games. And Big Fish Games released an app, and then Apple removed the app. Now, the app basically allowed subscription-based gaming, and for a monthly fee, initially set at $4.99, the service was going to allow users to access a number of Big Fish distributed games through a dedicated app. Now, this story I'm reading is on MacRumors, which came out on Wednesday, November 23rd, 2011, by Eric Slivka. And it seems like that was the first app to allow subscription gaming. And the app had been available since the prior week. But then Apple pulled the app following the official launch, and according to Bloomberg in this MacRumors article, Big Fish Games claims to be in the dark about Apple's reasons for removing the app. And it quotes the founder of Big Fish Games as being surprised that Apple pulled it. The founder, Paul Thielen, said it was officially approved. So it's unclear what's going on. Maybe Apple, by accident, let it through and didn't really realize that it was a subscription gaming service. We've seen other subscription services, obviously, like newspapers, magazines, and maybe Apple hasn't yet approved the concept of subscription gaming. But I could see that being something that Apple does eventually approve, because there's obviously a great desire for people to game on the iPad. And, if there's a cheap subscription, it could really save people money in terms of accessing loads of games. Okay, so one of the more interesting apps that came out recently is something I spotted in TUAW.com website on November 25th in an article by Mel Martin entitled Daily iPad App Perfect 365 Touches Up Faces in a Snap. So this is kind of cool. There is an app called Perfect 365 HD, and it goes for $4.99. And basically, it allows you to touch up like pictures of yourself or someone you know to make yourself look better. Its description says, "Are you curious to see what you'd look like with different styles? Always think that you can look better in photos. Make a change. Create a new look with Perfect 365." So basically, you can do one touch touch-up makeup, instant facial recognition, clean-up features, so you can clear blemishes, under-eye circles, soften skin, whiten teeth. You can makeup features. You can put makeup on your face, lips, eye adjustments, enhancements of features. You can enhance your smile, your bridge, your nose. So it's pretty powerful in terms of touching up how you look. I don't know. I'm not sure people are going to want this. It does seem kind of creepy in a way, to really transform yourself. The reviews so far, there's 2 of them, are pretty positive. It gets 2 5 stars. I'm not sure if that means anything. It is kind of gimmicky. It's $5, and it's in both in English and Chinese. So, to me, it's kind of interesting. I can see people getting it just to, maybe they'll touch up their pictures and then post them to these dating services. I guess single people, might, instead of using older pictures of themselves, might take a picture of themselves currently and then touch it up using Perfect 365. Now, one product that I'm looking forward to is a new microphone that works both with the iPhone and the iPad, and it's called IM2 by Tascam. Now, I think this is important because, a while ago, Apple made it hard for USB microphones to work with the iPad by limiting the amount of power that microphones can draw from the iPad to work with it. And so the Blue Yeti microphone that I purchased a long time ago, which initially worked with the first iPad, didn't work with the iPad 2 because it drew too much power. And then I got the Samsung microphone, which I reviewed a while back. And that's sort of a standalone microphone. Actually, I'm using it now to record this on my MacBook Air. But what's really cool is that Tascam, which is a maker of multi-track recording devices, and has come out with a microphone that plugs directly into the USB of both the iPhone and the iPad, and it has stereo condenser microphones on it, 2 of them, which you can swivel around and aim. So it's highly portable, and it goes for $80. It'll be, I guess, selling at various retailers like B&H Photo. One of the cool things is the maximum level for recording loud shows without distortion is a pretty high range of 125 decibels. So you could use this at concerts. It may make the iPad a really cool recording device if you have like a band and want to record stuff into GarageBand. Again, it's called IM2, and it's a stereo microphone for all Apple iOS devices, and it weighs only 1 ounce. So, that's something I'm looking forward to getting, and hopefully I'll get it and give you guys a review. So check it out. Okay, so another interesting gadget for your iPad is something that came out recently from Belkin, which is a pretty well-known household name. And this is a stand for the iPad, but it's a specific stand it's called the Chef Stand and Stylus. And it goes for $39.99 from Belkin. And here's what it says. It says, use your tablet while you cook. So this is sort of a stand. It has a base and a little lip so you can dock your iPad, and says it's made especially for use in the kitchen. The Chef Stand and Stylus gives you the freedom to interact with your tablet while you cook without worrying about touching your device with messy hands. And it says that the case-compatible stand has no-slip rubber base and 2 different angles that are ideal for countertop use. And then it has this stylus, which is really a wand, it calls it. And it says the wand allows you to follow recipes and browse the internet without ever laying a finger on your screen. It comes with its own storage stand and is easy to grab while you're busy handling food and other kitchen equipment. And it says the magnetic tip works with any touchscreen and can be used to wake up an iPad. So basically, they're really marketing this to people in the kitchen. I guess a lot of people use the iPad in the kitchen, and their hands get dirty, and they don't want to use their fingers to touch it. And there's a little video that they show of the of how you use it in the kitchen, and they have somebody just sort of, it's really like a big stylus, the magic wand. So basically it's a dock with a gigantic stylus, and Belkin is marketing it as a kitchen dock for the iPad. So it's clever. Some people may want this, and it is, sort of niche marketing. Okay, so another app that you may want to check out as a free app is the Jimi Hendrix The Complete Experience app. It's a free app, and basically it includes the discography of all his music, so you can flip through all of Jimi Hendrix albums, and it's promoting his songs that you can buy from iTunes. It has iTunes integration, which lets you play the songs you own. Well, actually, it recognizes if you have Jimi Hendrix music in your iTunes account. and lets you play it from the app. It also has some documentaries and videos of his live performances and films about Hendrix, photos, and it has geofencing alerts to let you know when you're near Hendrix landmarks. So this might be interesting in places like London or New York City. Maybe when you walk around with this thing, it alerts you that you're near Jimi Hendrix hangouts. Now, Jimi Hendrix obviously died decades ago. It also works with AirPlay, and it also works on the iPhone. So it's free. And, if you're a Jimi Hendrix fan, you should download this. It's getting pretty good reviews in the iTunes store. It says it's an incredible app. It's getting like 5 stars mainly. It has 218 reviews so far and has 4.5 stars rating. So, maybe this is just to keep people interested in Jimi Hendrix. But if you're a Jimi Hendrix fan, it's definitely worth getting this Jimi Hendrix Experience app. It looks really cool. Okay, so another free app you might want to check out comes from the store Anthropology. And they have a free app called Anthropology. And basically, it is I guess almost like a shopping app. It says here, Anthropology creates environments that are made for exploring, from its store's corners to its layered website to the page of its catalogs. With this app, you can delve even further into Anthropology with specially designed catalog browsing interspersed with iPad shopping features. So, Anthropology is a very elegant store, and so they've made a very elegant catalog app essentially for their products and for their brand. So again, this is free if you like the store, if you like to check out, sort of nice, tasteful stores. It's probably worth downloading this free Anthropology app. Another free app that you should get if you're into fashion and style is a new app that came out from the New York Times called the New York Times The Collection. And if you're familiar with the New York Times newspaper, you know that there are various pages of the New York Times that really track and follow the fashion scene and in New York. And these sections of the traditional paper are the style section, the teen magazine section, and even the Herald Tribune, which is a collaboration of the New York Times and another paper. So this is a free app that has content about the fashion, pictures in the New York Times and additional content. And it's gotten really good reviews from people who've used it. It says here that it has updates from across the fashion industry and behind-the-scenes interviews, photos of all the latest looks fresh from the runways in New York, Paris, London, and Milan, new products that are hot in stores and the latest in beauty and cosmetic trends, and street fashion from Bill Cunningham's On the Street. Tease look of the moment in reader-submitted slideshows, shopping videos, and also the ability to seamlessly share the favorite articles, videos, and slideshows on Facebook, Twitter, and email, and also fashion reviews from Catherine Horn and Susie Menkes. Now, Bill Cunningham, if you don't know it, is a guy who's worked for the New York Times for years, who goes around and takes pictures of fashion that he sees on the street. And it's a real treat if he takes a picture of you and you end up in the New York Times, because that means you're pretty fashionable. So his stuff is in there. And if you go to Netflix, there's actually a great documentary on Bill Cunningham, which tracks his interesting life, and he's kind of a cultural icon in New York. So this app is rich with content, and if you're really curious about the fashion scene in New York or interested in fashion, you should probably check out this app. It's free. The reviews on iTunes are pretty strong, mainly 4s and 5s. And, it just shows you how much, how the iPad's really becoming just a mechanism for getting content out, both free and paid. Okay, so another app that came out recently that's a mere $2 is an app that may help you with your learning how to spell and become a more powerful speller. And it's a game, and it works with Game Center, which is the social networking game function in iOS devices. And it's called Spell Tower, and it looks kind of cool. It's basically a spelling game, and it says here, the description is, waiting for a word game that does your iPad justice. The wait is over. Spell Tower is here. And it's gotten good reviews from various sites. So basically, there's 4 different modes. There's Tower mode, where you just try to get the highest score out of 150 letters, eliminating small words to set up a 7 or 8 letter blockbuster. There's puzzle mode, where every word you make adds a new row of letters, strategic word finding at its best, it says. There's extreme puzzle mode, which is puzzle mode with the minimum word length cranked up. And then there's rush mode, where rows of letters build up over time. You find words as fast as you can, and you should be careful. And it works with Game Center, so you can play against other people. And, it's only $2, so if you love Scrabble and you're looking for another spelling game, this seems to be, a pretty interesting game for a mere $2. The reviews are generally very good here. Out of 117 reviews, ratings, it got 4.5 stars. Let's see. One person gave it 3 stars and wrote, "So why did I buy this game? I blame App Shopper. Decent enough twist on the old Boggle theme, but not the amazing game that all the raves would have you believe. If you love word games and are looking for something new, then I'd say give it a try, and even then wait until it's a $1 sale." Other people give it 5 stars and say, "Best word game on iPad. After I bought this game, I sat my parents next to me and played for 2 hours straight. Incredible amount of fun, both for groups and individuals. Highly recommended. The different modes keep it fresh and allow you to play leisurely or actively with challenges." And somebody else writes, "Fun and addicting, 5 stars. This game is by far the most enjoyable and addicting word game I have ever seen in ages. The Boggle and Tetris element blend together perfectly and easily with an amazing looking color scheme. While I'm not playing this game, I think about playing it, and time seems to fly when I do." So, it's $2. It looks kind of cool. I'm thinking of getting it to sort of, encourage my kids to learn more words and to, get better with spelling. It's again, it's only $2, and it's by something called Zach Gage. So check it out. Okay, so another new device that looks attractive for the iPad. I spotted on a website called iSource.com on November 27th, and it was a review of something called the iDonut Writer 2 for iPad. And basically, it's a keyboard folio, and it has both like a cover and the keyboard and something to prop up the iPad. And it looks pretty nice, and it's $89. And the reviewer at iSource, let me get to his bottom line. He basically says, the iPad can be an enigmatic device, and I constantly think about what I can and can't use it for. The $89 Writer 2 adds beautifully to the list of possible iPad definitions by turning the device into a mobile writing package. To put it a little more dramatically, the quickest way between 2 points is a straight line, and the quickest way to start writing on an iPad 2 is to open up the iDonut. So the iDonut it looks like a pretty cool keyboard that connects wirelessly to the iPad, and it also has a case. So it's it's basically got an embedded Bluetooth keyboard, which locks it into landscape mode. So, it's $90. You might want to check it out. Their website is idonit.net, and the thing they seem to tout on their website is that the keys are really good, and it says that the keyboards are killer keys. And the Writer 2 is a Bluetooth keyboard and folio for your second generation iPad. The aluminum body with scissor action gives your fingers the perfect touch for typing. And it's apparently made out of aluminum and steel. And there's interior suede cushions. Interior suede cushions your wrists while typing. And it also says that the keyboard glides along a magnetic strip, allowing for unlimited screen angles while maintaining stability. It also has quick eject, so you can quickly release your iPad. And it has shield protection. It says the Writer comes equipped with a scratch-resistant ultra-soft rubber pads for protective cushioning. And there's a magnetic seal, so that when it's closed, the folio's magnetic magnets latch onto your iPad, putting it to sleep. So it's also got sort of smart cover function to it. So I don't know. I mean, it looks. There's been a lot of these sort of folios with keyboards embedded in it, and this looks pretty stylish. Maybe one of the better devices. My only concern with these devices are that it really adds weight to the iPad. Let's see. Here it says in terms of weight, it weighs 16.23 ounces. So that's like a pound. So it's adding another pound to your iPad. My preference is to keep an extra Bluetooth keyboard at work, and I also have one at home. So when I'm traveling, I don't really need the keyboard, and I can actually take the keyboard with me. The standard Apple keyboard is very light, and I can just put it into a bag. But when I don't need it, I just leave it. And my concern with one of these folios that have the built-in keyboard is that it adds a pound worth of weight, and it's going to really weigh you down. So if you're really set on it, you might want to check it out. It's called Addonit. So check it out. Okay, so that's it for the iPad podcast this week. This is Lex at Mac's Future. Thanks for listening. This is a chit-chat-free podcast. Any positive feedback that you can give on the iTunes Store would be greatly appreciated. And also check it out on YouTube or on Blip TV, or the video versions also under Apple Things on iTunes. So thanks for listening, and see you next week.
This has been a Mac's Future production.